G'day folks, Conor here from Sudubs Media. This is the Canon RF 35mm F1.4 VCM. I don't even know if that's the full name for it, but I finally have it. Now, those of you that know me know that street photography is my thing. That's what I do in my spare time. That's what I base my holidays on. That's what I do all the time. It's what I'm researching, learning about, doing. So the 35mm is key for me. I mean, it's just the perfect focal length for me. And I just wanted that fixed 35mm. I didn't want the zoom options. They're often bigger and more bulky, and I just wanted this 35mm. So, I don't know, but a lot of you might have been a little bit disappointed when this first came out, was announced like a month ago, and I know that I was, because I was looking for that F1.2. I was hoping for something a little bit smaller, a little bit more manageable, but I've had this out of the box for like 6 hours and I'm already warming to it. Now I do want to mention it is 555 grams. So that's half a kilo. That's pretty heavy. Half a kilo, like if I'm doing street photography for 8 hours and the body of my camera is 400 grams and then my lens is 555 grams, you're talking 1 kilo extra weight for 8 hours on the wrist. So it will make a difference and it will be a little bit bulky, but I can see the autofocus on this thing is super fast, and that's going to come in handy for street photography, but more so for the videography. I mean, it's just so fast and incredibly accurate, and it's so smooth, and that's because of the voice coil motor, I believe. Now, it's already good. This is the R6 Mark II and the autofocus is already fast, but I definitely can see that it's faster here on this 35mm voice coil motor. This video is going to be made up like of separate moments because I'm recording this part now just so I can see the autofocus and the quality of the lens. I just love how it looks. It's so sharp. It's incredibly sharp. And that's not always a good thing, but for the most part it is. Most people look for that sharpness, but it's not always about that. When I do the street photography, it's often the character of the scene that I'm looking for, so sharpness doesn't really matter as much. But when I'm doing B-roll or maybe some portraits for people, then it's gonna matter. That sharpness is incredible. And that autofocus, it's so fast and so quiet, I couldn't hear it. And if I compare it to the RF 35 f1.8, that lens makes a lot of noise. Now, no stabilization here. That could be a problem for some of you. And changing the f-stop, it's on the lens there. It's definitely different. It's not what I'm used to. So I'm going to see some adjustments there. But again, for street photography, I'm probably going to have this at f7.1. So it's going to be super, super sharp across the lens at that f-stop. And the f1.4 isn't really going to matter too much. If I'm shooting video, then I will be adjusting to that, changing the aperture through the lens there, which is cool. I don't really care, but it's not there for photography. I know everyone said that it's a disappointment. And maybe it is for a lot of people, but for me it's not. I already have my way of changing aperture when I'm taking photos anyway. What do you guys think? Now, I'm just going to duck down and come up, and we'll see how quickly it refocuses on me. And that'll give you a small indication. It's not rocket science, but it'll give you an indication of the speed of the focus through the voice coil motor. So let's disappear. How quick's that? It takes like a second to lock on, but once it does, it's bang, straight on. So pretty impressed. Now I'll just jump off to the side and back in. Again, takes a while to find me, but once it does, bang, it locks on really, really quickly. Definitely quicker than the other lenses. And if I walk up and back and up and back, it's super fast. Super duper. I took some portraits before at F1.4, and just the roll off from my eyes through back to my ear and into the back of the image looked incredible. I'll put some of those images up now. I was very impressed with what I was seeing. It's definitely a difference to some of the other lenses. 28 centimeters is the closest focal distance. 14 elements in 11 groups. Some of the flaws you can get with lenses aren't there or aren't as noticeable because of these 14 different elements. And I'll go into that in more detail. It's got a 67mm filter thread and a rear filter hood, so you can put a filter in the back of the lens instead of on the front. 11 aperture blades, which is going to give you very circular bokeh balls. The aspheric lenses, there's 2 of them. No image stabilization. The focus drive in these is voice coil motor and nano USM. So you got the dual technologies there. Love that. Comes with a lens hood. Already loving it. Whacking that lens hood on. This lens is going to be my everywhere lens. Okay folks, so the start of the video I was wearing a different set of clothes, and that was 1 week ago. And I had been out doing photography and shooting with this camera for a whole week. Shooting B-roll, shooting A-roll like this, and just basically testing out the Canon RF 35mm F1.4 VCM. And I cannot wait to just use this more and more. I absolutely love the results that I'm getting from this lens. Now there is a few caveats to this lens, some things that I wish weren't the way they are. And it's not what everyone else is saying, you know, about having the f-stop on the lens. I personally couldn't give a shit about having that there for photography or not. I use my camera a certain way, so it doesn't matter what lens I have on it. Whether I'm changing the f-stop via the lens or via another way, just really doesn't matter to me. Now, I'm typically a street photographer. I walk the streets for many hours taking photos, and my wrist bears most of the weight when I'm out doing that. So as I said at the start of this video, I think it was one day this week I did like 8 hours of street walking, maybe even more, and 1 kilo, so the lens 555 grams, and the body of the Canon R6 Mark II eventually took its toll on me, and I was pretty tired by the end of it. Something to consider. Now I know that a lot of other camera companies that offer street photography kits, their pancake lenses are there for that sort of thing. But this has such good quality, I wouldn't really want to trade it in for a pancake lens. And I'll just show you quickly. This would be Canon's 24mm on a RF converter, and this is the 35mm. The size is like night and day. It really is. So I would be used to carrying this around, now this. And I was also using the RF 35mm 1.8, and that was much lighter as well. Now another thing that concerns me a little bit about this lens is, and I know Canon pre-warned everyone, but when you turn it off, or it goes into sleep mode, you can feel a significant sort of thud inside the lens of the voice coil motor and everything sort of falling into place, because when it's powered on, it holds everything where it should hold it. So when it powers off, all that gear inside the lens hits the bottom. Now, because Canon made a big deal out about telling us all about it, I was aware of what it was. If I didn't read up on it, I would have been quite concerned. But I'm curious to see how this holds up. I mean, 5-year warranty here in Australia. Thank you, Canon. But I'm wondering, will that last 5 years? Especially for a street photographer where, you know, you can, like, I can feel that thudding up and down now. So if I'm walking the streets, my camera's going to sleep a lot, and you just feel that thud, will it last the distance? That's one concern I have. Everything else about this is amazing. Now, the autofocus speeds are incredible. You saw earlier where I was like jumping out of frame and jumping back in. Once it locked onto me, it was like lightning fast. And I have found that with the photography as well. Once it locks onto something, it is not going to let go, and it is lightning fast, and it can track really fast as well for video and photography. Now, with my photography on the street, generally I'm shooting at around 6.3 or f7.1. That's the beauty I found of this lens. It's just so sharp across the whole frame, not just in the middle and soft on the edges. I mean, this thing is ball terror sharp across the image. It does have a pretty beefy sun visor that comes with it, and it also has the ability to put in rear filters on the inside of the lens, not on the outside. So you might put an ND filter or colored filter, something like that on, which to me is, you know, it's fiddly enough putting them on the front, let alone taking a lens off and putting them on the back. So use case scenario for me isn't there, but comment down below why you think you would use the rear filter mount instead of the front. Now for video, I was doing B-roll of the Pixel 8a, a couple of videos that I did recently on that phone, and it is so sharp again, right across the whole frame, really just produces a beautifully sharp image for the video as well. Very impressed with that. Again, I didn't use the aperture ring much, even shooting video. I mean, it is there, and I could just quickly do it, but again, I'm so used to using my camera to adjust my f-stop and my shutter speed and my ISO that I just don't think to use the lens. So some of you might really thrive on that. Some of you video creators might really thrive on that. But for me, it's like, yes, it's nice to have it there, but I didn't use it as often as you might think. There is the programmable control ring on the front as well, your focus ring. Now these have some good, what would you call it, dampening within the control rings. I mean, they're nice and sturdy, they're not loose, there's not too much throw in them. The front one clicks nicely, which you can also program to be your aperture ring control as well. And then you have the aperture ring. On the side, you have your manual focus and autofocus, and then you have another programmable button here, and then you have a little slider which you can just slide up to lock in your aperture control ring in place for when you're not using it. So all in all, a beautiful lens, gives beautiful looking images. The sharpness is what I'm going to rave about, but also the bokeh as well. I was getting some really nice bokeh. You can see in these videos and photos, a little bit of onion rings within the bokeh, but only if you pixel peep. We don't generally pixel peep bokeh. We just admire the subject in the frame, and also you get that nice bokeh. Now another amazing quality for me was the roll off from being in focus to out of focus. It was just so gentle, and it was almost like sublime for me to see that smooth roll off. I really appreciated that for the Canon RF 35mm f1.4. The roll off, the sharpness, just beautiful, beautiful look. Now there's many other technical points to this lens, but I'm not that technical guru lens dude, you know. I would say go and look at that Christopher Frost when he reviews it. He'll give you the technical aspect of it. Or Gordon Lang did one where he was comparing images from other lenses as well. That was pretty good. Go and check those out. I don't know the guys. I don't get anything for referring you to their videos or anything. I just think they produce good content when it comes to a little bit more technical stuff. But for a street photographer, amazing. For portrait photography, amazing. For video work, amazing. Just love it. Definitely is now my favorite lens. And I can say safely that this will be the only lens I take from now on my overseas street photography trips. So previously I would take, say, the 24-70 and a prime lens, but I'm just thinking now, why? 35 is where it's at for me, and I just love this lens, and the quality it produces. So that's my video on the Canon RF 35mm f1.4 VCM. I should just point out this video is not sponsored. No one sends me nothing. Put some comments down below because this won't be the only video I do on this lens. I wonder if they'll ever name a lens supercalifragilisticexpialidocious, because that would be shorter than naming this one. But anyway, names aside, just love it. Thanks for watching, and I will catch you in the next video. Ciao.